started, and let me back up for a second because there's a lot I want to share with you, and I'm excited to have this guest on. But most people never see what happens after the first win, and most people don't even get started when it comes to pursuing and buying their very first storage facility. But what happens is that we're always seeing the wins on social media, right? It's like Facebook and X, and everything is like a highlight reel for people. But here's the thing: like, you're just seeing the glory. You're seeing the person cross the finish line. You're seeing the person like raise their hands, like, "Oh, look what I just accomplished." But what you don't see is everything that goes into that point: the blood, the sweat, and the tears. Oftentimes, I find that people look like an overnight success, but again, you don't see all the hard work. You don't see the frustration. You don't see all the deals that fell through. And that's one of the things that I really want to dive into with our guest today, because last time I had him on, and I'm going to introduce him in a second, he had just closed his first storage facility. And it was a moment of euphoria because he had a lot of false starts, to use a football analogy. When he first joined our community, he wasn't really putting in the time, energy, and effort. But to his credit, he and I had like a very direct conversation, and he recommitted and he hit the reset button. He focused. He got that next deal done, I want to say within like 3 to 4 months. And there's a saying in storage that says, like, once you buy your first storage facility, you're halfway to 10. Now, if you fast forward to today, not only is he managing and operating that deal successfully, and he'll give us a recap as to what that looks like, but now he's actually under contract on storage deal number 2. And as if that wasn't enough, he's under contract on storage deal number 3. So simultaneously, this dude is working on closing 2 more storage deals. And here's one of the things that I want you to catch about his story. And again, I'm going to introduce you to him in a second. Both of these deals came from inside the Storage Wins community. So if you've ever wondered what is on the other side of deal number 1, then this conversation is going to be for you. So with that being said, Mario, welcome back, brother. I should have shared this in the intro. You and I go back since we were kids, man. I don't know. I think we've known each other since 4 or 5 years old. Obviously, both born and raised in Miami. Our parents have been really good friends for pretty much all of our lifetime. And dude, it's so awesome to have a friendship with somebody and then be able to pour into them and help them, and just to watch you succeed. And not only succeed, but now you've become like a leader inside of our community. You're helping others. It wasn't that long ago, dude, that you were like asking, newbie green questions, which is normal and expected. And now people are going to you for questions. So yeah, man, dude, I'm proud of you. And I don't take credit for that. It's you. You've put the time, energy, and work in. You've plugged in. You've built relationships. And it's just rewarding from this side of the conversation to like see you and witness you having success. So yeah, man, welcome back to round 2, dude.
Appreciate it, AP. Yeah, no, excited to be here, obviously, and yeah, man, it's been awesome. I mean, first and foremost, obviously, you and I know each other for a long time, so just seeing the growth and development of our friendship, and now, I mean, really working from a business perspective, and then kind of seeing the growth and development that I've had in the last couple of years with the Storage Wins community, which, to your point, did not go as planned at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But the cool thing about it is that you can just refocus, wake up one day and say, "Hey, I'm gonna do what I have to do," and refocus and just put a plan in place, and things can start happening. And it's kind of funny that that first deal, April 25th was the last day of my corporate job in 2025, and I closed on that facility July 25th. So to be honest, it was probably like a month after where I just refocused, maybe was on 3 or 4 calls and was under contract and then closing on the facility shortly thereafter. So, yeah, pumped to be here, pumped to share my story, hopefully inspire some people, and
Yeah, man.
just very grateful for where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and dude, we won't get into your story again, because what we'll do is we'll link up round 1, the interview that I did with Mario about a year ago at this point, pretty much almost.
Yeah.
But you got laid off, right?
Correct. Yeah, there was a restructuring in my company. There was opportunities to stay. And to be honest, I took a long, hard look. In fact, I was looking for other opportunities within the company, but the position that was being offered at one point was not something that really fit what I was envisioning for my future self, right? And
Yeah.
I told my wife, I said, "Hey, I'm going to be stuck in this role probably for another 2 or 3 years, and honestly made the decision to not move forward with that role. In fact, I kind of bombed the interview in a way, but it's because I challenged them a little bit and decided, you know what, like I'm gonna go off on my own. I don't know what the other side looks like, but I did get my wife's blessing, which was great.
Yeah.
And woke up the next day, and that's when you and I had a phone call at 5 in the morning to let you know that I was gonna refocus on storage.
I remember, man. I love it, dude. So look, let's start here because the last conversation we had, where we recorded it anyway, because we talk often, you had just closed on your facility in Missouri. Okay, your first storage facility. I remember you were scared out of your mind. There was a lot of energy and excitement, and then there was a lot of like oh damn, like now what, right? So bring everybody up to speed with where you are today and how is it on the other side of now owning a facility. How has it been managing and operating that storage facility, especially remotely? Because again, you live in Miami. That facility is in Missouri, in a town that prior to Storage Wins you had never heard of. And that's one of the funny things about pursuing self-storage is you're going to learn more about certain cities and markets that maybe you would have never come across in your life. But there's so many people that have a fear, a worry, a concern, or maybe it's just a knowledge gap about how do you do remote management successfully. So give us just an overview as to where you are with the facility today, and then what your experience has been like managing and operating that facility remotely.
I would venture out to say that people living in Missouri, most of them probably don't even know about this town in Missouri.
Yeah, okay, there
So
you
it's a
go.
very small town in Missouri, and honestly, yeah, the butterflies were there throughout the process. Even closing on the facility, but I'm happy to state that things have been awesome since then, right? Like I got a really solid boots on the ground, somebody that I trust. Him and I have built a great relationship. 73-year-old guy. He does my lawn maintenance, my weed maintenance, and then he manages my property. And honestly, the great thing about that is that he manages my property like it's his own, which is great.
Love it.
Having that level of trust and that boots on the ground has been vital to the success of the facility. And honestly, all it stemmed from the conversation. He was cutting the grass next door when I was doing my due diligence. I went and introduced myself and asked him, hey, look, I need the lawn maintenance, but I also need somebody to manage my property. And at first he was a little hesitant, but once he saw what the job entailed, he's like, dude, I can do this.
Yeah.
So that's been great in terms of the operations. With some coaching from the Storage Wins community and from you, Alex, I've been able to manage and operate the facility, do some rent raises, which have been great, without any of my tenants batting an eye, which has been good. Building the equity in the property. I'm actually at 100% occupancy, even though, again, there'll probably be another rental rate increase in the near future. But listen, I cash flowed from day one, so
Yeah.
it's been a great asset to own. I don't dedicate a lot of time to it, so if I do maybe 1 to 2 hours a week, and I'm the one that's handling the phone calls, I'm doing my QuickBooks, which maybe I don't advise people to do, but I actually am doing my QuickBooks. I'm handling any calls, text messages, emails, and then obviously working with the software that I utilize to manage the property. But not a big lift. It's not passive, but it's not a super heavy lift as either.
Yeah.
But I now see the vision a year from now where I can have this facility exactly where I thought it could be when I first purchased it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, and there's so much to unpack there, and there's a lot of questions that I want to ask you. So we won't spend too much time on this, but a couple things is oftentimes people ask me like, Alex, how is it that you have your storage facilities hundreds of miles away, and how can Mario live in Miami and own a facility in Missouri? And it's a three-prong remote management system that we teach inside of Storage Wins, where every facility has a part-time local boots on the ground team member. And then depending on the size of the facility and how much revenue that facility generates will determine, and also based on your goals and vision, do you want to plug in reputable third-party management to handle the day-to-day operations? And if so, they will likely have a call center. You're going to have a storage software system. Or in Mario's case, the facility is smaller, so he doesn't take a lot of calls and text messages, and he is the one managing the boots on the ground. And it's very simple. I mean, I think you heard him say he might spend 1 to 2 hours a week I think most people would sign up for 1 to 2 hours a week to manage and operate a storage facility that cash flows from day one. And then the other thing is, Mario, and we've gotten on him in a playful way, but also like he knows he needs to be raising rents again because we don't want to be at 100% occupancy. If you're at 100% occupancy, it's a sign that you're just not charging enough. And you always want to be putting upward pressure on the street rates. In fact, just a couple of days ago, we had our weekly Storage Wins coaching calls, and we were talking about operations and revenue rate management. And we were talking about different scenarios. And one of the scenarios was like a mirror of Mario's storage deal. So we kind of used Mario's deal as like a mini case study. And I know he's going to be going back to the drawing board and raising rents again on certain customers. So that's awesome, dude. So is the experience harder, easier, or what you expected prior to closing on that facility? Now that you've had a year under your belt of operations and storage management, give us the real. Is it more difficult than you thought? Is it exactly what you thought, or is it easier than you thought?
I mean, I think it's a lot easier. I think sometimes we put this limitation in our mind, or we just put a lot of in our mind as to like, this is going to be very difficult. In fact, again, you said it earlier, but for me, when I sent the LOI, I was actually hoping it got rejected, just because I felt like the process was just going to be so challenging. And once it got accepted, it was like, oh my God, this is happening.
Yeah, man.
But honestly, going through that process right before close, and then now from an operational standpoint, um, there was a lot of, I mean, even the day or the weekend that I closed, there was some challenges with my boots on the ground initially. And I was like, man, am I going to be able to do this?
Yeah.
I was sweating, I was like, is this really going to be happening to me right now? This is going to be extremely challenging. And to be honest, it's been the complete opposite. Now, granted, I have to put in the work and I have to make sure that I'm organized and, have everything that I need to make sure that the facility is successful. But that's where Storage Wins comes in, right? There's a lot
Yeah.
of resources, a lot of people I can tap into. If I have a silly question about rent raises, or if I have a question about anything for that matter, right? Tenant insurance, like operational, best practices. I can tap into the community. I can tap into a lot of people. That's the culture that you've cultivated here, Alex. And again, everybody's willing to help each other, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, man, 100%. I wanna talk about like how quickly you have accelerated. You talked about that 5 a.m. phone call that you and I had where you hit the reset button. It took you, I think, what, 10 or 11 months when you first committed to storage to send your first letter of intent, and that's not typical. Usually, when people come into our community, we want to encourage them. We want to give them the tools, the resources, the support, and guidance to feel comfortable enough to send that letter of intent by the end of the first month that they're with us, in some cases the second month. But you had a lot going on and you were readjusting to life after corporate America. We haven't even mentioned that while you were doing storage, you also started another business, right? So you really wanted to challenge yourself, as if, running and learning and operating one business isn't enough. Like, you took on two. You got a beautiful family, you got 2 kids, a wife, like you got a lot of responsibility, dude. And so there was a lot on your plate. And I think that's maybe a conversation for a separate podcast or YouTube video. But now that you're under contract on deal number 2 and deal number 3, what was it that shifted and changed in between the first deal that you closed and where you are today? Like, talk to me about the skill sets that you've acquired, the confidence that you have that maybe you didn't have before, the relationships that you've been able to build and cultivate inside the Storage Wins community. Or maybe it's something deeper. Like, what was the shift from you closing deal 1 to now where you are today and all the growth and progress?
I mean, for people outside the group and even community members, right, that don't have deal number one, it's something that's a challenge in our mind, right? Like we find it to be so difficult or complicated to get that first deal. And listen, it is, right? You got to put in the work. You got to start building relationships. You got to start having conversations. You got to get deeper in the underwriting. And at the end of the day, ultimately, you got to be sending out letters of intent, right? But the really cool thing is that once I got that one under contract, I closed and started operating, the confidence level just went way up, right? So since then, I feel obviously much more confident in the storage game. I'm a self-storage owner and investors. The conversations that I have now when I'm, prospecting or having a conversation with self-storage owner my language is way better, right? And it's a confidence thing, right? Straight
Yeah.
up, that's what it is. It's a confidence thing. I can, and truthfully say that I'm a self storage owner and investor.
Yeah.
And it's just that's something that's really helped me with my conversations with the self storage owners, with brokers, with other community members, right? And having those, building those relationships amongst the group as well. But again, it's something that I think many times we put limitations on our in our mind. And I put something on LinkedIn today that it was very simple, but it was like shut up, suit up, and show up.
I
Like,
like that. The
and with
triple
the
S.
shut up part is like, man, there's a lot of negativity, a lot of noise, and most of it is coming from us. I mean, I'm sure you've probably heard this with Gary Vee, but he says it like, if you can write down all the negativity that you put in your head, and you write it down, and then at the end of the day, let's say right before bed, you have that list. It's probably so long and kind of like ridiculous that you would be like, why is this list so long and why is it so negative? So I
Yeah,
think
man.
from a mental standpoint, we have to put ourselves more in a positive mindset. Obviously, closing that first deal really helps with that. But at the end of the day, for me, I've burned the boats, man. I left corporate America. I started my own medical distribution company, which luckily, things have been going really, really well there. I'm established and growing and scaling that business as well. But it's also afforded me the opportunity now to really focus on self storage.
Yeah, man. I love it. I love it. There's so much that you said there, and there's a lot of like wisdom and nuggets to dive into. And one of those was that mentality of burning the ships. You get to the beach, you burn the ships. It's like, let's go to war. And I want to be mindful. Obviously, this is not war, but I'm just using it as an analogy that mentally, you have to first decide and commit anything you want to pursue in life or business, any goal you have. Everything first starts with a thought, and then you have to decide and commit. There's so many people that talk about it. I talk to people basically on a daily basis that want to get involved in self storage. But there's a smaller percentage of people that it's not just talking, it's like, okay, I'm ready to do this and I'm looking for guidance and support. Or they're out there trying to figure it out on their own and they're plugging in and watching YouTube videos and podcasts and reading about it. So there's a lot that I think people can draw from your story, dude. But number one, everything starts with a decision and a commitment. And then obviously you surrounded yourself with the right people. Deal number one, I feel like taught you the mechanics, right? And you were learning that prior to deal number one, everything from like how to find these deals, underwriting, like the funding and the financing, like how do you get these deals over the finish line? Is there anything, Mario, that you would say that closing that first storage facility unlocked for you that knowing what you know now, you could have never studied about, or you could have never like just watched a video or read something? I guess I'm asking, is there something that you've taken away that like I had to experience that to learn it, that I could have heard about it, but it probably wouldn't have resonated?
I mean, I would say though, and I think a lot of people are like this. I know when I first joined the group, it was my mindset, right? I was like, I need to have something close by, either in Florida or in the
Yes.
Southeast. I wasn't looking in Missouri. In fact, I'd never had any thought of buying a self storage facility in Missouri.
Yeah, dude.
And the one thing that, with that first closed deal, it's funny because I still have a buy box that I would love to own in North Carolina or in Tennessee. Like there's certain states that I'm attracted to potentially owning another storage facility on. But my buy box now, when somebody asks me like, "Hey, where are you looking?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm looking everywhere." Like I mean, yeah, the West Coast might be a little bit more challenging for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not like ready for it or I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it, right? And I know that if that facility may not be for me in the West Coast, it could be a wholesale opportunity potentially with another community member. But it's kind of expanded my horizon that, wherever you're at, and I've still heard this from people, right? That they're like, oh, I just want to look, within an hour or 2 hours of where I live. And, honestly, it doesn't matter whether you're 2, 3 hours away or you're 12 hours away, right? Like at the end of the day, you can still manage a business efficiently the same way, right?
Yeah.
So that's I think what's resonated the most with the Missouri deal, to where now I have deal number 2 and 3 in two separate states, right? So it's kind of funny. Now I have this like mindset, like I don't know, like maybe I can start putting, different pins on different states of where I own.
Yeah.
Let's see
Yeah.
how many states we can check off.
Well, it's funny that you said that because a little bit over 2 months ago, you were there. We had our first Storage Wins in-person retreat at a beach house in Key Largo, and it was it, there's no words that I can share to that's going to encapsulate like the experience, the connection, the bond, the breakthroughs, the insights, the conversations, like the things that are impossible to replicate on Zoom. And it's interesting because since then there have been some facilities added to the map, and one of the things we're going to do at our next retreat is we're going to have a map where people are going to have the opportunity to put a pin, and so we can start to see how the community is growing in terms of ownership of storage facilities across the country. And to your point, Mario, it really makes no difference in if the facility's in your backyard or if it's 6 or 7 or 16 hours away. But I think what happens for a lot of people is there's a certain level of comfort and security that it gives them to know that they can drive there, see it, feel it, touch it, handle an emergency. But what I find is that it's just a knowledge gap that most people don't know how to manage these remotely. And when you have the right processes and systems in place, I would actually argue that I think there's more benefit to not being able to drive there to see it, feel it, and touch it, because you're going to start tinkering and meddling with things that don't need to be messed with. And you're going to go there just because. And I got news for you guys. Like, people think storage is sexy, and in many ways, I suppose it is. But if you think about the actual business model, it's the most unsexy thing in the world. It's like we rent space. I mean, there's just not a whole lot going on when you own and operate a storage facility. It's kind of boring, right? You might go on site. Like, dude, I was in Amelia Island a month and a half ago visiting one of my facilities. Man, I may have seen, I don't know, 5 to 10 customers over 4 to 5 hours I was on site. Like, there's just not a whole lot of activity and volume going on at these storage facilities. But I want to now shift the conversation, dude. There's one common thread. Well, there's several threads, but one of them in particular, when we think about the deal source, something we call inside of our community the deal flow machine. There's a common thread, whether you've realized it or not, Mario, between deal one, deal two, deal three, in terms of where it came from. Could you talk about how you were able to source all these deals?
Yeah, so I mean, all three deals actually have come from the community, right? So that's been pretty awesome. That just building relationships, and deal number one, honestly, the gentleman that it came from, I didn't even have a relationship at that time with him, but obviously going through this process, closing on that facility, helped me build that relationship, and in fact, turned into deal number two as well. But that's the really cool thing, is that the communication is live in the community, right? There's a lot of us that are having conversations, whether it's on the phone, text message, email, our school community, where we're starting to just like share deals. I mean, we're all doing the same thing, right? Like we're looking at deals, we're having conversations with self-storage owners, and something that may not work for me may work for someone else. So
Yep.
I think, I mean, deal number three, that's the perfect example. Somebody on one of our calls, like, I didn't even really explain the deal too much, but mentioned a little bit about the deal, and it just piqued my interest, and I shot a text message, and before I knew it, within 24 hours I was under contract, right?
It's so wild.
um yeah, and that's just kind of how it is, right? It's not rocket science. I don't think I'm doing anything, or I'm better than anyone. It's just a matter of, I think, putting yourself in an uncomfortable area, like making sure that you're having those conversations, you have a plan in place. But the great thing about it, Alex, and again, man, like you're a man of faith. Like the things that you've done with this community in terms of just building the right culture, right? The right mindset. Like a lot of people that join the community, I'll have a conversation with them. And one of the first things is that they're really hesitant in terms of like sharing deals, right? Like, wait, you're telling me I should be sharing this deal? Aren't we all competing each other for like deals? And it's like, no, we're not, man. Like, yes, we want deals, we want to win, but at the end of the day, it's more of a community mindset of like, hey, I'll scratch your back, I'll help you out, and without needing anything else in return. And that's the awesome, and again, a testament to the culture that you've built. But it's something that honestly excites me. It gets me to like, I'm just very grateful for where I'm at right now in my life,
Yeah,
and
dude.
a lot of that has to do with the Storage Wins community. So
Man, I appreciate you sharing that. It means you know how much I care about the community and the people inside, and obviously I pour my heart into it. And I think so many people throw that word around, especially these days. I feel like the word community has now replaced the word mastermind. Where years ago, like there was masterminds everywhere. Now I feel like there's communities everywhere. And like anything, there's going to be good communities. There's a few that are going to be great, and there's some that are going to be not so good. What is it from your words, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from your perspective, what you've lived and experienced, what is it about the community that is different to you that maybe separates it from others out there? Like, and again, this is from your words, and I want to hear your genuine thoughts.
I mean, I'll tell you this, because yeah, we're using that word community, but I will say it starts with yourself first, right? Like, and we talked about it. Like the first year that I was in this community, I didn't really do much, right? The community wasn't really giving me a lot either, right? But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I wasn't really asking for it. I wasn't putting in the work. So I think, anybody that's looking to join a community, this isn't like magic fairy dust and like you're going to be owning self storage. Like you got to put in the work. Like it
Yeah.
is, it's not something that is easy to do. But if you put in the work, if you have that right mindset going in, like I wish I could have told myself so I didn't waste that first year. But at the end of the day, again, I was able to wake up and refocus and start all over. But, again, the community itself, once you put in the work and you start building those relationships and you do it from like a genuine standpoint,
Yep.
it just starts giving back to you, man. It's just the way life is, right?
Yeah.
Me coming from a sales background, I've always been a big believer. Like if your activity level is high, things just start to happen. The sales gods just start raining on you, right? And before you know it, for me in the medical side, like that one doctor that like, wouldn't talk to me for 2, 3 years, all of a sudden I'm getting a phone call that they want to place their first order. Like those
Yeah.
things happen. And the same thing happens in self storage, right? As you start having more conversations with self storage owners, with the community members that we have, brokers, and you start underwriting more deals, all of a sudden like things start to flow, and before you know it, something like going under contract on deal number 2 or 3, happen within weeks of each other. So again, I think the really cool thing is that we have a strong community. I think those that are putting in the work within the community are starting to see like things come to fruition. Again,
Yep.
I'm not special. I'm not doing anything that I think I don't know. I just feel like I'm putting my head down. I'm getting to work. I'm grinding. Um, and good things are starting to happen, which is great. And I feel like
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
just at the beginning, which is awesome.
And that's the secret formula. That's the special sauce. It's not anything else. People would love to hear like, "Hey, what's working? How did you do this?" You know how you do it? Again, you decide, you commit, you surround yourself with the right people, and then you roll up your sleeves and do the work. It's not a magic potion. It's not like, okay, I join a community now, I'm gonna be successful overnight. Like, no, you got to put the time and energy in like anything else. And I don't want to I don't want to understate that this requires work like anything else. Is this passive income? No, it's not passive income. But to Mario's, you said it earlier, you own a facility and you might spend an hour or two. I think a lot of the time and energy goes in on the front end is looking for opportunities and looking at deals. What I believe accelerates people's success is the proximity, the access, the having the conversations, right? Now doors and opportunities start opening up to you. And dude, you kind of glossed over it, but what was it? 3 to 4 weeks ago, we were on a Storage Wins call. One of our members mentioned the deal. She just like mentioned it. She didn't even spend too much time on it. And there's a famous quote by Virgil that says, "Fortune favors the bold." And the way that I interpret that is that speed wins, right? Speed of implementation is one of those things that I think has always propelled me in certain areas of life and business. And it's how quickly can you hear something and act on it. And I think a perfect example of that, dude, is you on that call. There was 30 other people that heard her talk about that deal. But I want to say that you and maybe one or two other people reached out to her. The difference is, in fact, there was another community member who I won't mention his name wanted that deal. But right after that call, you picked up the phone and you called her. And that is what led to deal number 3 for you. So you don't have to get into the specifics, but talk a little bit about how that mindset about speed wins and speed of implementation, how that's helped you on your journey.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was on site in deal number two, right? Like doing due diligence. I had just gotten to the facility. My phone was at like at 3% battery. It was
Wow.
overheating. Like there was a lot going on. But I managed to stay on the call. And as soon as I heard that, our calls end at 4 o'clock. At 4:02, I was shooting her a text message to find out, a little bit more about the deal and just letting her know that I was interested. And again, that's the little things that we can do. I kind of again go back to the medical side. Like at 4 o'clock, I used to, drive by instead of making a right and stopping. And a lot of times we do that, right? Like we tell ourselves like, hey, you know what? Maybe tomorrow I do this. And at the end of the day, you just got to take action. You gotta know what you want.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to work out. Sometimes it's not. But for me, the one thing that I've looked at right now is I'm going to give it my all in my medical distribution company, in this self storage journey that I'm on. I'm literally going to leave it all on the table. And at the end of the day, if there's failures, if things don't work out, at least I know I gave it my best. And I think unfortunately for us, a lot of the times we find ourselves in this little comfort zone and we like to stay in that comfort zone. And for
Yeah.
me now, I've now really gravitated towards that uncomfortable like zone, and I'm getting something out of it because it is something that's super challenging, especially when I'm running two different businesses. But
Yep.
it's working out. Both of them are starting to thrive. Things are happening for me, and again, the crazy thing about it is that I just feel like I'm at the beginning. I'm like literally thinking of this as like AI right now, right? And I have so much more to give here now in the next 10 to
Yeah.
15 years. And I'm excited to see my future self now, right? So,
Yeah, dude. As am
you
I.
know, again, and that a lot of that confidence comes from the group. I mean, again, I was probably number one skeptic. I remember you being part of masterminds back in like 2008, and I was like, "What the heck is this guy doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
is this gimmick?" Um,
Yeah.
but now that I'm part of it, and I still have a lot of conversations with people outside the group, and they're trying to tell, like, they're like, "Give me the secret sauce. Tell me what it is. Like, what are you guys doing there?" It's not anything, crazy. We're all we're doing is we're building relationships, we're having
Yeah.
conversations, and we're putting in the work.
Yep, yep. Man, I love it. This is I think one of those conversations that anybody that's ever doubted themselves needs to go back and listen, because there's just a lot of wisdom that you shared throughout the conversation. And one of the things you didn't say, but you basically alluded to it, was you got to find people where you can borrow their confidence. Sometimes other people's belief in you is larger than your belief in yourself. And look, we've all had moments of doubt and uncertainty. Like I have them. Mario's had we're not immune to doubting ourselves and questioning sometimes. That's where, to me, being a part of the right community is like the ultimate insurance policy, where you can plug in and you can share challenges, and people are there not to judge you, but to lift you up and to challenge you and to hold a mirror sometimes back at you. And it requires having difficult conversations, and there is a high level of accountability in the community. And if that's something that makes you uncomfortable, then you're probably not the right fit. But I would encourage you to figure out a way to start getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, because as cliche as it sounds, we've all heard it. That's where the growth happens, right? If you're in a place of feeling comfortable, you're probably not growing, and you should be pushing yourself. And I do think there's a balance between ambition and contentment. In fact, that's something that we have a group of friends that once a month we get together for prayer group, and that was a topic of conversation: is what is that balance between ambition and always striving for more and for growth, and also being content. Anyways, that's I just wanted to share some reflections with you, because these are things I'm thinking about as well. But more as we start to kind of wind down here, dude, you alluded to deal number two, and you're actually partnering with another Storage Wins community member on that. Why? And I want to ask a question. I know the answer, but I want to ask a question for the benefit of anybody who might be listening and watching. Why not go at it alone? Like, why choose to partner with somebody else? And how are you thinking about partnerships inside the community, maybe even outside the community? Because partnering is a big deal and it's a big decision. So talk to me about why you're choosing to partner with this person on that deal, and how you're thinking about structuring the partnership in a way where it's a win-win and you're avoiding some of the landmines that can come with partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting topic, right? Because I think you'll get like a array of different answers from people. I think some people are completely anti-partnership, and listen, at times partnerships may not work. But for me, when I first started, I was like, okay, I'm going to own and operate a facility. High five, Alex. I'm ready to go, and that's that. But it kind of happened in that Key Largo retreat, right? Like I think that's where I started to see like the power of this community, and there's been some really successful community members that have gone through partnerships. In fact, one of them like owns, he's a partner in a lot of different deals,
Yep.
and anywhere from 5% to like 70% partner. And for me, that was eye opening. I was like, man, I want to do that, right? Like I don't necessarily have to own and operate 100% of these deals. I can start figuring out ways and people that I want to partner with. I think there's a vetting process that has to happen. I think you have to have these like honest, tough conversations at times to make sure that you're partnering with the right person. But at the end of the day, I think by having these conversations, remaining open and just building that relationship, you start understanding, okay, you know what, this is someone that I could align myself with and own a
Yep.
business with, right? It
Yep.
is a big responsibility, right? A lot of things can go wrong. And that's why, for me, having the tools and resources where I can ask questions for people, people that have already done this and have been successful. Like, hey, how have you pretty much operated the entire thing to make sure that there aren't those stumbling blocks and
Yeah.
issues that we can see down the road? So
Yep.
the good thing is the community does offer you that kind of information, right? Where you can, people will, including yourself, will help you like, hey, this is the way this should be structured. These are the watch outs. This is what you should be doing.
And
So,
in fact, we did that what about a week or so ago, where we hopped on a Zoom and you asked the very without getting into the details and the specifics, you asked a question about partnership and structure, and we kind of just jammed on it. And it's like, hey, be careful for this, and I got my eyes on a document and a structure, and just it's healthy to have people that you can have those types of that kind of dialogue with, because you don't know what you don't know. And yes, we have AI and we can jump on Claude and we can have it coach us in a certain regard, but the one thing that those AI tools don't give you is experience. And when you talk to somebody who's just a little bit further along in the journey, who's walked that, who's experienced it, you get a lot of insight, I believe, that can give you confidence in how to best move forward.
yeah, 100%. I mean, it's something that, again, I'm extremely grateful for this community and what it's done for me. And now with this deal number two and just being able to partner with this person, and in fact, we're bringing in an equity partner from the group as well, and just going through that entire process, right, and like knowing exactly what's needed. It's challenged me, right? It's made me a better person. it's
Yeah.
it's made me a better business person. In fact, I know what my strengths are, right? I know what my areas of development are, and with this partner in specific, I think we have some things that actually mesh really well together.
Yep.
So
Yep.
just again, incredibly excited for the future there, and what other potential partnerships could happen within the community. And then, again, even outside the community, I've had some people ask me and say, hey, I'm ready to be an equity partner if you find the right deal. And that's pretty cool to have. So
Well, man, you don't. I never send the questions to people that I'm going to interview because I want the conversation to be natural, organic. But you teed me up as if you had the questions that I have in my mind that I want to ask and the direction I want to take the conversation in. But one of the things I wanted to ask you before we start to wrap this conversation up, brother, is for many people, the thought of the money, where do I get the money? Or I don't have the money, so I can't do this. It's such a mental hurdle for a lot of people I talk to that either don't have capital or don't know where to find the capital or how to structure the deal. You just brought up the word equity, and some people might not quite know what that means. But talk to us about the structure of deal number two. And you don't have to get into any details, right? But like, how is it that you're able to get involved in this deal without necessarily having to use your money? And just talk to me about the advice you would share with others that have a mental hang up about, hey, how can I do this if I don't have money? Or where am I going to get the money? There's just a fear that paralyzes people when it comes to the funding and financing part of this business. So in 2 or 3 minutes, dude, like what are your thoughts and insights on that?
I mean, I wish I would have known this 10, 15 years ago, right? In terms of like being able to invest or gain real estate asset classes without necessarily investing your own money. But it is something that I know you've talked about. You've been involved in deals where you had none of your capital into it, but were able to close and own and operate on a deal, and it is possible, right? So with this one in specific, yeah, there's no capital outlay coming from myself or even my partner. We did get a third person that's an equity partner. And we were very meticulous with the deal, with the underwriting. I mean, with the investor deck, right? We had multiple conversations with this person. So I think it's vitally important, right? If you're going to be bringing in an equity partner or asking somebody for money, like you got to make sure to do the work to assure that you can give this person the right information and help answer any questions that they have.
Yeah.
It's not going to
Yeah.
be a magic thing to say, hey, yeah, like give me $100,000, $200,000, but you don't necessarily have a good plan in place as to exactly how you're going to own and operate the facility, how you're going to exit, and make sure that like you've looked at everything within this deal to assure that, hey, at the end of the day, if this person's going to lend you money, you're gonna treat it like your own, and you're gonna make sure that everything that you said you're gonna follow through on, right?
Yeah,
That's
man.
extremely important. That's something that I hold in high regard. For me, it was incredible that this person would trust myself and my partner in this deal. That to me, almost gets my eyes watery, right? Just knowing that somebody has that level of trust in business with me. But
Yeah, man.
it's again something that it is possible. My third deal is actually going to be no money either, right? I'm using a private lender to make that. It's a small deal, but it's going to be a cash deal, and I'm going to utilize a private lender for the close and also for some of the operating costs to hopefully it's a lease up situation where there's not many units leased up,
Yeah. Yeah. Heavy
but we
value
feel
add. Yeah.
we can stabilize it in the next 12 months. But again, it is possible. I think sometimes we limit ourselves into like who we know. And this could be with capital, this could be with anything else. But I've tapped into a lot of my friends and colleagues in the medical world that have helped me with like finance partners, with, I mean, lawn maintenance guys, roofing companies, like anything, right? And I mean, heck, I talked to the insurance guy yesterday for deal number two, and he might be my boots on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then he had this whole list of people that he knew that could do some of the capex that we need to do. So again, I think it's a matter of just having conversations with people.
Yeah.
You'll be very surprised the network that we have. And I think sometimes we limit ourselves to knowing or thinking who we know. And there's a lot of people out there that are willing to lend you money so long as you earn it and at least do the due diligence of organizing your investor deck.
Yeah, always take care of somebody else's money, whether it's an equity partner, a private lender, whoever. If you're ever taking on money, you better make sure that you understand it is a massive responsibility and that you're going to treat their money better than you would treat your own. At the end of the day, it's about being a good steward. And if you're being a good steward of the things that God's given you, then He's probably going to entrust you with more. And if you're not being a good steward, you're probably not going to get entrusted with more. So it's a big responsibility when you take on an equity partner or you borrow money if you're going to do it. And that's a whole separate conversation about the dangers and pitfalls of borrowing money. And yes, you can scale and leverage and you can go to the moon when you leverage. Oftentimes people don't talk about the downside to it. So you got to be really responsible and careful if you're going to do it. I don't know if there's a right or wrong. I know a lot of wealthy people in my circles that are anti-debt. And it's because they learned the hard way. And I'm not saying you shouldn't borrow money because I've done it. I'd be a hypocrite if I told you so that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you're going to take on money, again, whether it's in the form of equity or debt, it's a responsibility that you need to understand and not take lightly. So, dude, with that said, final question, and I'm going to get you out of here on this. To the person that is sitting where you were, okay, you were in corporate America, you were doing well, super comfortable, beautiful family, health, like, dude, you're in the 0.5% in this world. Like, you've made it by many people's standards. And maybe you got forced to step away, but to your point early on in the conversation, you did have the opportunity to go back, maybe in a little bit of a different role, but you chose to bet on yourself, not just once, but twice, right? Starting your medical distribution, medical sales distribution business, storage business, For the person that's watching who's in a job that maybe it's not where they want to be, they're just not sure about, they're afraid, they're scared to take that leap. What would you tell that person today that you couldn't have told them a year ago or maybe 2 years ago prior to you finding some success in storage? What's the advice you'd give them?
Well, if you don't have any kids, go for it.
It's a lot easier when you don't have kids, right?
You don't have any kids and you have this inkling of like wanting to do more, just do it. Obviously, with kids, like it's something to have a conversation with your significant other. And I think you got to map out a little bit, right? But for me, the last 10 years of my life, I've had this thought of like opening up my own medical distribution company, right? And I was in a very safe zone. And listen, I had a great career at Johnson and Johnson. I have not one bad thing to say. Like it's something that really has been a big part of my life, right? But I've always had like I had this inkling, and I at 35 I was like, man, I'm not ready. I don't want to do it right now. At 40 I was like, I'm not ready. And then listen, they kind of the buttons were pressed for me. I had to do it, and I make a decision. And I again, part of me, and I'll tell you, even throughout this journey, there's been times that I'm like, people will say, hey man, there's this really good job for you if you want it, and I'm like, man, should I take it? This is really good money, or should I just stay on this path? And there's been times that I've doubted myself, but at the end of the day, again, man, for me, it was important to listen to myself. I had this thought in my mind of who I wanted to be. Um, and again, I think one of the things that I'm doing now too is I'm envisioning that I'm already my future self. Like that person that you look at you say, hey, I want to be like that. I want to do that. I want to own 10 storage facilities. I want to own 20. In my mind, I'm already owning 10 or 20 storage facilities, right? Like, and that's the mindset that I didn't have a year ago. Like a year ago, I was like kind of just hoping for one. For me now, I'm like, no, I'm elevating myself to another level, knowing that if I have that mindset, right, I'm going to get there. And then once I get there, I'm going to probably want to go somewhere else. But, again, man, just take the plunge. If you have that inkling, but, you have to do it with the right mindset. It's not something that you can do and then kind of dip your toes in the water and say, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. There's been a lot of people that have done that, including myself.
Yep.
And again, I would tell you, take a long look in the mirror, see exactly what you want to do with your life. We live a very, very short life, man. As we know, we met when we were 4 years old, and here we are at 45. Things go by fast.
About to be 46 next
and
week.
you're about to be 46 July 2nd. Like
Wow.
that's about 5 months before me, so you're actually older. But yeah, man, we got one life to live, and if it's something that you have this thing you want to plant that seed in your head, like, hey, I want to do something more. Storage wins, or just the self-storage community, or self-storage asset class could be right for you. And for me, it's been one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Like it really truly has, Alex, to not only be part of to be in self-storage, but more importantly, being part of this storage wins community. Like I would have never imagined, 2 years ago when I joined, that we'd be sitting here having a podcast and having this conversation. Because again, for me, it was like, I was going to own a self-storage facility, high five you, see you maybe every few months, tell you how the self-storage is going, and that's it. And now I'm seeing what you're building here, the community that you're building. And again, it's exciting to know that we're just really at the cusp, or at the beginning of all of this. There's so much more for us to do together, which is awesome. So
yeah, man. Well, man, look, I so appreciate you, man, for how you show up, for who you are, how you're inspiring people, for just coming on here and sharing, hey, there were challenges, and I've doubted myself. And man, whether you realize it or not, like, you're inspiring people. I see you out there now sharing more, and I think that's opening up doors, and you're having conversations with people, and you've become a leader inside of our community, and now you're helping people, and that's going to open up to more doors. It's like, whenever you give, and you give from the heart, and you do it without the expectation of something in return, the laws of reciprocation are always going to tip back in your favor. It is a universal law. I wholeheartedly believe it. I've experienced it. And so if you're on the fence, like, you don't have to figure this out alone. And this isn't a pitch or a commercial for storage wins. Like, find your tribe, wherever that may be. I might be biased, but I happen to think this is the best community, and it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the people like Mario, the people that are just going to pour into you, the guidance and the support that you get. So don't try to figure it out alone, not because you can't, because you certainly can, but why would you? Why would you risk making the expensive mistakes or the time and energy it's going to take you to figure things out? Because we don't know what we don't know. So that's the last part I'll share with you about community. Find your tribe. But Mario, brother, man, this is exactly why I wanted to have you on the show again, dude. It's yes, to put a spotlight on you because you deserve it. Even though that might make you feel uncomfortable in some way, but to show also like what's possible when you stop trying to do it alone. And, 2 years ago, I remember the first conversation and like you and your wife were hesitant and you were like, are you really going to do this? Are you going to make that kind of investment? Because it's not inexpensive to do this. And like, I remember you being on the fence and I was in a weird place because we're friends first. And like, but like, I knew what was possible. You couldn't have imagined us doing this, but I did. I knew it would work if you did the work. And that's the key right there. It's not a magic wand. It's not going to happen overnight, but you were willing to do the work. And I think now you're starting to like reap the rewards of that. So anyways, look, it's not that Mario or even, it's not that we're smarter than you because we're not. It's just we decided, we committed. We always talk about MIA, right? Massive imperfect action. And that's what starts to open up the doors, right? It's be, do, and then you have to become the kind of person and then do the things that kind of person would do. And then you will have the things you want, right? Don't wait for the stars to align for you to then take action. It's take action and you're going to build confidence along the way. At least that's what I've experienced. So look, if you want to learn more about the community, I encourage you to schedule a short call with me, like zero pressure. Head over to storagewins.com/call. And then Mario, dude, I want to give you the final word. How can people connect with you if anybody wants to talk to you about storage, if anybody wants to have you look at a deal, collaborate, possibly joint venture? Where's the best place for people to reach you?
Yeah, so before I do that, kind of funny, as you're talking here, I actually got two missed calls from Arizona, and I actually know that my VA right now is actually she's calling on self-storage owners
Look at you,
from
dude.
Arizona. So
I love it. And
it's
we didn't
actually
even
kind of
talk
funny.
about virtual assistants and like how you're starting to like leverage other people and you found your who and not how. But maybe we'll leave that for round 3 once you close on deal 2 and deal 3.
Yeah. But it's funny. I will have a call with somebody from Arizona as soon as we finish here. But if you want to, yeah, I mean, listen, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Mario Quintero, if you want to find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram and Facebook as well. And I'm an open book, man. So if anybody, like my email's titanshoремq@gmail.com. If you have any questions, anything that you want to ask me, I'm an open book right now. Again, I don't have all the answers. I'm not smarter than anyone by far, but I will tell you this. I've always been very willing to help other people in my medical world. I had a 20 plus year career so far in medical device. And if somebody reaches out to me on LinkedIn that's like coming out of college and looking to get into the medical device world, like you give me a good message, I'm going to answer back and I'm going to help you out. You know why? Because a lot of people didn't do that for me when I was younger. And in the self-storage space, same thing, man. 2 years ago, I had no idea about what self-storage was all about. And I still don't really know or have all the answers. Obviously, I'm much more equipped now being owner operator and having done some things in the Storage Wins community, but I'm willing to help anybody out that's wanting to learn more about Storage Wins or self-storage in general. And yeah, please make sure to reach out to me.
I love it. I love it. So, guys, we'll have the links in the description. You can look them up, Mario Quintero, on LinkedIn. And then I think you said mq@gmail.com.
No, it's actually TitanShoreMQ@gmail.com.
Okay. I was gonna say, how in the heck did you get that Gmail address? So,
No,
okay,
that would have been too easy. So
yeah,
Titan Shore
Titan Shore MQ at
MQ
gmail.com.
at gmail.com. That's my email for my self-storage business. And yeah, you could reach out to me. And again, I'm always willing, if we got some brokers, if self-storage owners, if you have, you would consider selling, like make sure to reach out to me and we can have a conversation about that as well. But yeah, excited to obviously have more conversations with people in the space. And Excited for the journey and what's to come next, in the next year. So
I love it. I love it. Well, brother, again, proud of you, man. Keep going. We're gonna keep pouring into you, and you know that we're your safety net here, dude. So, and then I want to acknowledge everybody who's taken the opportunity to either listen to this or watch this. And we talked about speed of implementation, and we talk about how speed wins. We talk about first deciding and committing. That's what I would encourage you to do, right? If this is something you've been thinking about for any period of time, ask yourself, what is the cost of inaction? If you keep delaying on this and you just keep thinking about it, are you going to get what you want? Or do you just need to decide and commit, even though you might not feel ready, even though it might feel uncomfortable? And then what are you going to do about it? Because speed does win. So with that being said, I appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube channel, on the Storage Wins podcast. Let's connect on Facebook. I've been putting out a lot more content about self-storage. So if I can help you in any way, let me know. And if you want to have a conversation, storagewins.com/call. So with that being said, Mario, I will see you very, very soon, brother. Talk soon.
appreciate it, Al.